Alright, we're going to get right into this. This is, in a lot of ways, a follow-up video to a question that I asked Joshua Bardwell, and he might learn something today. To give you a little bit of backstory, my name is Steven. I'm an FPV pilot out of Pittsburgh, and like many of you, I had tuned into one of Joshua Bardwell's live streams asking him about a feature that I had seen crop up a bunch in GitHub commits and issues for Betaflight, that the Betaflight flight controllers can actually get the time and date from a number of different sources, and then use that to timestamp Blackbox logs. Now, when I had asked about that, that didn't seem to be very common knowledge, and I think I've figured out what the reason is and why a lot of people are still under the impression that you cannot timestamp Blackbox logs. A lot of it is related to the luac scripts that the Tyrannus X9D, X7, and Horus use. I had reached out to eTracer on the Betaflight Slack server, and he stated that there's really 4 ways that a flight controller can get the time. One is through the configurator, naturally. The other is through a GPS, if it's attached. The other is through what they call a dedicated RTC. I assume that's some sort of serial device that you throw in a UART that its sole function is to just give a time to the flight controller. And the last one, which would be the most commonly used, is through luac scripts. But I have luac scripts running on my X9D, and I've never seen the time or date attached to a black box log. It always shows that default time. I think it's the year 2005 or something like that. But I figured it out, and what we're going to run through here today is a series of tests to see if we can narrow down why some people think that it doesn't work. So what we're going to do is we're going to first plug into Betaflight. Just to show you what we're dealing with here. So I'm going to show you my modes. Every time I arm aux1, Blackbox is recorded. It doesn't immediately start recording, so we're going to use that in our test today. And also to show you, we're going to go to Blackbox, activate mass storage device mode. And if you look at my logs, they're empty. All right, good. So we'll unplug and we'll get right into this.
Welcome to OpenTX.
I apologize for the camera angle. You can't see the quad. When you're too close, the the RC signal will kind of blast out the telemetry. It's at a lower power. So the receiver or the radio actually won't get telemetry. I actually have to move my quad a little bit further away, probably. And then we're going to plug in. Now we are disconnected from the computer. Props are off, so we're good. So just to show you, and we're going to find out if this is what's causing the no timestamp problem. But we're going to press menu or hold page, and you'll see that there is no Betaflight script set up on here, because most of the info that's out there will tell you that you're going to get an out of memory error if you set the script to run on the telemetry screen, which from the home sort of model screen here, you just hold page, and the script would normally show up there. The workaround, obviously, is that luac option. Joshua Bardwell has a video on it. There's tons of videos on it. And, it's not very clear whether or not it was actually fixed in any of the OpenTX or luac scripts updates. I know when I first set this up a couple weeks ago, I tried not to do the luac option. I was still getting out of memory errors. So the workaround we all do is we hold menu, we press page, go down on the Betaflight folder, you execute the luac script, and it just works. Okay, so my theory is that, well, since we're doing that, that means Lua is not constantly running, which means that there's a chance the quad is not getting the timestamp from the Tyrannus. I should preface this by saying that you do have to have your clock set in your Tyrannus for this to work, obviously. But your Tyrannus will keep time, much like a lot of other computing devices. So we're going to execute a basic script here just to ensure that there is some sort of back and forth telemetry going on. So we'll go to my VTX, and let's just change the power. Menu, save page. And just to be doubly sure, I'm going to cycle my VTX on. I have that on this switch. I have a Maytech board. So give that a second for it to actually execute that script and cause the VTX to change power. Go ahead and shut it back off. I don't want to burn out my transmitter. So we're going to arm once, let it run for a second, and that will have made a black box log, and we'll look at that. Okay. So next test. So we're going to unplug the quad. Now we're going to go into, we're going to go menu, hold page, screen. So let's do the actual script, and I'll get to show you how I got this working without a memory error. Okay, back. So hold page just to make sure. So now the script is running on the telemetry screen. And we're going to power cycle the radio just to be certain that everything's refreshed.
Welcome to OpenTX.
Okay, let's put the quad back in. Let's turn that VTX on again. So I have to wait for it. So there's the RSSI, so we know we got telemetry, so we'll hold page. And that's working. So let's actually, so I don't even have to do anything because I know this works. All right, so let's arm, make another log. Okay, now we're going to do one other test. There are some folks that say that when they have this working, if the quad is powered on before the transmitter, it doesn't get the time correctly. Now that was supposedly fixed, but again, these GitHub commits and issues that are open and closed, very vague, and there's not a lot of info. So we're going to test that one out. I actually haven't personally tested that yet. So we're going to learn this in real time. So wait for the quad to come on, and then let's power on the transmitter.
Welcome to OpenTX. Switch warning.
All right, let's make sure our telemetry is working. Sure is. All right, and then let's do another arm. Okay. So unplug. Power this off. Black box. Storage mode. And what do you know? So here is the issues, and there are two of them, and those folks were right about one. So ignore the date for a second. Check out the numbers. So 1, 2, 3. It always increments it by 1. That's the first log we did. So that is without the Lua scripts on the telemetry screen and executing a Lua script via luac. So we still did a two-way communication, but did not get the time. As soon as I put it on the telemetry screen and made sure my transmitter was powered on before the quad, I got a timestamp, 10:57 a.m. today. And if you look at the Betaflight log, you'll see log start date, July 2nd, 2019, 10:57 a.m., which is perfect. And then this issue is apparently still not fixed. So that's the third log I did. I still had the luac scripts on the telemetry screen, but my quad was powered on before my transmitter. And there you go. It defaulted to the November 30th, 2015 11 p.m. that we're all used to seeing. So that is how you timestamp a black box log, which will make everybody's lives so much easier. Now, to show you how you get the telemetry screen working with the luac scripts, let me eject this. I'm going to plug my Tyrannus in. Now, Josh followed up his latest video. I mean, this was about a year ago, I think, regarding the method to get luac scripts on the X9D running without the memory errors, and that was where it was recommended to do the luac option.
Switch warning.
And then he did a follow-up video saying that there were some commenters that told him that you could delete some files within the SD card, and that would get rid of the out-of-memory errors. And he mentioned that in the follow-up video, but there's a couple problems there. The follow-up video is not super popular. I only came across it recently, even though I had watched the other video a while ago. And in it, it was still kind of unconfirmed whether or not that was a real fix. But I can tell you that it has worked flawlessly for me. So for those of you that are not familiar, the quote-unquote fix to still allow you to do the normal luac script without luac and put on the telemetry screen was to go into the scripts folder, BF for Betaflight, and delete. There should be two other folders here. One says Horus and one says X7. And to delete those, because those contain code specific to those FreeSky radios. And the only one we need is X9. The rest of this is obviously also required. But there were three device folders, the X7 and the Horus. That was where it was suggested to delete those, and I deleted those, and it's working great. Now I don't know. I don't know whether or not you still need to have the luac firmware flashed to the Tyrannus. I do, because that was what I had done to begin with, to try and still use the luac scripts. I haven't reverted back to a non-luac version of firmware, so your mileage may vary on that. But regardless, the trick is to get luac scripts working on the telemetry screen. Make sure your radio is powered on before your quad. And your quad's going to get the time from your Tyrannus as long as it's set within the Tyrannus. So now I think that that brings us back to where I think that there's some miscommunication here. I don't know that a lot of people know that this fix works for the Tyrannus. I also think there's a lot of folks out there with an X7 or a Horus that don't have the out-of-memory issue. And they may be under the impression that Betaflight has always timestamped black box logs. Because I imagine that if you have Lua working on those radios, normally, I don't believe they require a workaround. As long as your radio is powered on to begin with, you're going to have timestamps without you even thinking, as long as you're running those Lua scripts. But there's so many X9D users, and I feel that so many people are still doing the luac option for Betaflight Lua scripts, or maybe they abandoned it and are just using the OSD for everything that they need. And if that's the case, you're really missing out, because those black box logs being organized by time like that is amazing. So that'll do it. I'm gonna send this to Josh, and hopefully he does a follow-up video. He's definitely better at recording than I am and explaining things than I am. So I would love if this gets out a little bit wider to the community.